Members, Minnesota Management and Budget will release an interim budget projection next Tuesday. That projection will include limited, updated estimates of expected revenues and expenditures for the current biennium. That projection will help us understand the new economic environment so we can make informed budget decisions going forward. This COVID pandemic has forced so many to change their daily lives. Even here at the legislature, we have changed. One day we're working on one set of bills, and then it feels like we're in a snow globe that someone shook, and all of a sudden, we have to do things differently, we have to think about how we do things differently, we are voting differently on a whole new set of bills. I think we have done a good job coming together to address the rapidly changing situation. We worked together, we compromised. We passed bipartisan legislation that invested $550 million to help our state respond to this crisis. Those bills were timely. Those bills were urgent. This bill is premature. This bill is setting up promises that you may not be able to keep. This bill should wait until next week, after we hear the budget update. When some of the provisions in this bill were first heard, there were some concerns raised. DOR sent a memo, Department of Revenue sent a memo outlining some of the technical changes, and it appears the First Amendment addressed at least most of those issues. The Minnesota Inter-County Association, or MICA, testified that there could be some implementation complexities for counties if the statewide levy May due date is extended. A commercial property tax bill is a compilation of your county, your city, your school district, and your state taxes. It's just one number. It doesn't list out the portions separately. The bill just says you owe X. So how is a taxpayer supposed to know what amount is deferred by this bill? Micah said that changing the information in the software system and getting that information to multiple taxpayers could take months. Those are just some of the issues that we could have continued to work on and if we waited to hear this bill until after the budget update. The tax code can help provide some relief for some taxpayers, but is not always the most efficient and direct way to provide that relief. This pandemic has caused so many challenges for so many, and it has put a spotlight on the disparities and inequities throughout our state. Our response needs to be efficient and strategic. We can use this opportunity to develop a strategy that eliminates the inequities and the disparities so that everyone can thrive in one Minnesota. How do you do distance learning if you don't have a computer or access to the internet? 17% of Minnesota students, mostly low-income and rural, do not have access to the internet. School districts have had to scramble and use tight resources to get Chromebooks to students. Many students have had to look for hotspots. There was a story in the media that talked about a student having to drive in his car and sit in a parking lot and do his homework because that's the best place that he could find internet access. My Senate district has several students and families with language barriers who don't have internet access. And access isn't the only issue. School districts have spent resources trying to figure out how to help students with special needs and IEPs adjust and succeed with distance learning. This bill modifies the school referendum equalization aid, and that helps about half the school districts in our state. That's not a bad provision. It's just I think we should be looking at relief for all schools and all students. They are the economic future. We should provide an economic recovery that helps them. We should provide relief to help all schools deliver a quality education for all students, including students of color and those with IEPs, so they all thrive and succeed in a future in one Minnesota. We should create an economic recovery plan to reduce barriers and close the disparity gaps. How do you stay home if you don't have a home? This bill modifies the class rate for 4D housing. We heard bills and taxes and in the Housing Finance Committee to find ways to create more affordable housing to keep people and put people in a home. I appreciate all the work of all the stakeholders that have worked on the 4D provision and other ways to find more affordable housing. We need to ensure that any relief helps keep rent low, maintains the properties, and creates a vital community. The 4D provision should have guardrails. I've been very clear about that when I have met with the stakeholders. It needs to have guardrails so that it creates a path to economic stability for those families, for those communities, and doesn't just line the pockets of bad landlords. I look forward to continuing working with those stakeholders to find workable guardrails. This bill does provide some relief for some taxpayers. But where's the mortgage relief or rent relief in this bill for the worker at the closed processing plant in Melrose? Or the worker at the closed JBS plant in Worthington? Where's the property tax relief for the caretaker at the closed long-term care facility in Wayzata? Where's the assistance for older adults, people with disabilities, people with different abilities? We should be helping our most vulnerable. Where's the relief for farmers to figure out what to do with the livestock that they can't afford to feed and have no place to process? Where's the relief to help craft brewers and craft distilleries? Craft brewers have had to throw out expired beer. Shifting tax deadlines doesn't help them if they don't have money to pay that taxes. Where's the relief for college students who lost their job, can't pay rent, and can't find a job, and they continue to accumulate school debt? Where's the relief to help our essential workers who are helping keep our economy afloat right now by keeping our grocery stores stocked and clean? Where's the help for small micro businesses, many of whom are immigrants and don't have access to big bank and the paycheck protection plans? That relief is not in this bill. This bill is premature. We have an opportunity to pass a forward-looking legislation to help build a better future for all Minnesotans, both during and after this public health emergency. Maybe we should include the provisions that were in Senator Abler's A11 amendment. That should be included in a broad discussion where we have targets, where we have a global agreement, where we have bipartisan support like we did in the previous $550 million investment. A tax bill, any tax bill, should be part of that global agreement that lays out a strategic plan to address these challenges, that closes inequities and disparity gaps across our state, that creates a path forward for economic recovery for all Minnesotans, businesses and families and students and workers, regardless of their race, religion, gender, who they love, or their zip code. We have an opportunity, we have a duty to work together and create a strategic economic recovery plan that includes a tax bill and finance bills that leads to a successful, thriving economic future for all Minnesotans. That is one Minnesota. I urge a no vote on this bill.